Ty the Tasmanian Tiger. It's a 3D collectathon platformer, and like a lot of collectathon platformers, this game has a common collectible. For Ty, it's in the form of opals, the equivalent of Spyro's gems or Banjo's notes. Even though this isn't the most original video concept in the world, I couldn't help but wonder if it's possible to beat this game without collecting any opals. So let's find out, shall we? Upon starting up a new game, we are greeted to a cutscene where our protagonist Ty is playing in the forest and falls down a hole in the ground. It's here where he meets the ghost of Christmas present or whatever, who offers Ty a non-negotiable lord dump. Many years ago, the Tasmanian Tigers were locked in a battle against Daffy Duck, who plans on harnessing the power of the 5 mystic dinner plates to take over the world. In the scuffle, Ty's parents, and a handful of significantly less important characters, get thrown into a portal to an unknown dimension, and the talismans get scattered across the land. In the present day, Boss Cass still seeks the talismans, and Ty is the only one who can put a stop to it. So yeah, do all that stuff and don't collect any opals while you're at it. Bye! With all that out of the way, we are booted to the game's hub world, Rainbow Cliffs. A serene environment, complete with calming music, a koala, this thing, and the best part, there aren't even any opals here to worry about. How about that? We're already off to a good start. Heading over to Bly Station, we run into the aforementioned koala, Julius, who gives us the rundown on what the hell we're actually supposed to be doing in this game. Julius has invented a machine that can teleport each of the talismans here to Rainbow Cliffs. The catch being that to power such a device requires a large amount of thunder eggs, and here lies the game's main collectible, the equivalent of Mario's Power Stars or Banjo's Jiggies. This game is split into 3 acts, with 3 levels and a boss guarding a talisman for each act. To access the boss level, we need the required amount of thunder eggs in the 3 levels for that act. Thunder eggs collected in one act don't factor into the later one, so I can literally just get the bare minimum to enter the boss. Though need I remind you that this is an opal-less challenge, and each level has 8 thunder eggs to collect, but each level has a thunder egg for collecting all 300 opals, so obviously those are out of the question, meaning that we only really have 7 possible thunder eggs that are up for grabs. On the plus side, pretty much every thunder egg has equal value, meaning that there aren't any thunder eggs that you need to get over any other thunder egg. This means that if there's a thunder egg that seems almost impossible to get without collecting an opal, I should usually be able to leave it and just go for a different one instead. Lastly, I'll be saving the game often and utilizing multiple save slots for this, so if I collect an opal accidentally, I can just reload my previous save in order to keep my opal count at 0. With all those pesky rules and details out of the way for now, we can head into the game's first level, 2 Up. My first concern going into this level, and any level for that matter, was the idea of spawning right into an opal. Thankfully the game wasn't that cruel. For now at least. We learn about the game's major mechanics: jumping, biting, throwing boomerangs, dunnies, all that good stuff. Since this level functions as the game's tutorial, I expected it to be pretty simple to avoid opals here too. This level is pretty linear, but the path is wide enough to where I could run next to the walls and I'd be able to avoid the opals pretty easily. Although I did come to a couple realizations throughout this level. One, that I should never break any of these crates. Breaking these crates causes a handful of opals to fly out. They have no other purpose outside of that, so ignoring them for the most part can literally only benefit me. And 2, I should probably avoid these picnic baskets as well. These tend to have pie in them to restore health, but if you don't need the extra health, they will most likely contain an opal magnet power-up, which allows you to pick up opals from farther away for a limited time. And I think it's pretty obvious why I don't want that, so I think it's in my best interest to avoid these. Anyway, moving ahead, I run into Julius again, who shows me a golden cog, another collectible in this game. There are 10 of these in every level, and I can turn in 15 of them at Rainbow Cliffs for a special non-mandatory techno boomerang. You can get some cool boomerangs this way, like one that can rapid fire, one that can ricochet off enemies, one that can snipe. I can't think of any scenarios where any of these would help us avoid opals, but there's no harm in picking up some of these cogs as long as there's no risk involved. Up ahead I come across the fabled second boomerang, stuck in a rock Master Sword style. With 2 boomerangs instead of 1, not only did this allow me to hit twice as many targets at once, but it also gives Ty the ability to spread them out like wings and glide. Yes, I know it makes no sense, but just go with it. Let the tiger do his thing. Now that I can glide, I feel the need to mention Ty's secret double jump maneuver that the game doesn't tell you about, and I'm not even sure if it was intentional by the devs or not. Anyway, you can give Ty a little bit of extra height just by jumping and pressing and holding the button again at the top of his jump. It's small, but it can really come in handy at times. After gliding over this gap, I reach the end of the main pathway. By this point I managed to collect 4 thunder eggs no problem, but now that I had 2 boomerangs I was able to find an extra path or 2 by backtracking. Doing this allowed me to find all of the 5 bilbies. There are 5 of these cage creatures hidden in every level, and finding all 5 nets you a thunder egg for your troubles. They're essentially the Jinjos from Banjo-Kazooie. After I'd been through the main path, this level's time trial was available, where I needed to get to the end of the course in a certain amount of time to be rewarded with yet another thunder egg. I actually thought that most, if not all of these time trials would be almost impossible to do because I was pretty sure I wouldn't be able to set a good time while also avoiding opals. But I was pleasantly surprised to find out that when participating in these races, all of the opals are taken out of the level, so I could just focus on winning. I guess I never knew about this because when playing this game normally, I like to collect everything and save the time trials for last. But this means that all of these time trials should be completely risk-free. After backtracking a bit more, I came across this ledge that I needed to get over to get to an area with another thunder egg. The problem is that this cliff is lined with opals. I made a couple attempts to get over without collecting any, but when Ty jumps up after grabbing a ledge, it propels him too far forward, and I seem to always collect an opal no matter what angle I approached it from. I was getting ready to give up on this one. After all, I had collected most of the thunder eggs in this level, but after wandering around, I found out that this waterfall also connects to the area I'm trying to get to. I was able to jump just about high enough to get to the top, get to that area, bother the local crocodiles, and collect the remaining thunder eggs. So with that, I now had every thunder egg in this level, minus the opal one, with my opal count still at a hearty 0. If all the levels are like this, then beating this game without collecting a single opal should be no problem. Although that was the first level, so let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Next up was either shipwrecks or walk in the park. I decided to try shipwrecks first, since I figured that it should be easier because it's one of the game's more open levels. This is a water level, so learning how to swim is a must, since getting around in the water before now was a bit of a challenge. Once learning how to swim, we can be guided by the seahorse that haunts my nightmares to collect some more thunder eggs. To be honest though, I expected this level to be easy to avoid opals in, and I was totally right to think that. I mean, I sometimes struggle to find all the opals when playing this level normally, so getting through it while avoiding them all, with all this open space, was kind of a breeze. I was a little worried when I came up to this area, where you have to get past all the sharks by hiding in these cages, but I couldn't do that because the cages also had opals in them. But as it turns out, you can quite easily just swim past all of them in one go, no problem. And even if I did get caught, I could just tank the damage and keep going. So nothing to worry about. The sharks still kind of freak me out though. I was also a tad worried about this section when climbing up this spiraling mountain with opals lining the path. But it was wide enough to where I could avoid the opals without too much trouble. So yeah, not too much to say about this one. It's as simple as raiding a shipwreck, hitting some coconuts, racing a platypus, and then bing bang bonza! We now have all the available thunder eggs for this level as well. With my confidence at its peak, I went into the third and final level of Act 1. Walk in the park. Walk in the goddamn park. Back when I thought of doing this challenge, I expected this level to give me a bit of grief. There were a couple of concerns I had going into it. First of all, these springy, flowery things. Wait, what the hell even are these? Ah, corpse flowers. Great. These can be used to launch Ty to other areas, but I was worried about these potentially launching me directly into opals, so I made sure to consider it carefully and save before using them. They ended up being pretty safe to use in the end though. Not too far into the level, I came across this area with a bunch of log bridges that I had to cross in order to progress. Unfortunately, they are all dotted with opals. The logs are too narrow to simply walk around the opals, so I had to try jumping and swerving around them instead. A little risky, and I did fall a bunch of times, but I got the hang of it after a while. Even the spinning log wasn't that bad, but all of that stuff is nothing compared to what came up next. The water slide. Trying to navigate down this water slide without collecting any opals was definitely the most miserably soul-draining experience I have ever had playing this game. I had to retry this water slide again and again and again and again, and I've yet to bring this up until now, but whenever I accidentally collected an opal and had to reload my last save, no matter where I saved, reloading the game will always have you start at the beginning of the level. You retain all your progress, such as the thunder eggs collected, but this game still expects you to hoof it all the way back to where you were. Getting down the water slide opalless was so difficult and reliant on trial and error that I had to reload and redo the log bridge part so many times. It got to the point where I could effortlessly get through this section without even thinking about it. It was like second nature after a while. As for the water slide itself, it is long and completely lined with opals. I was hoping I could tackle this just by simply hugging the wall, but the game wasn't having it. Sometimes the water slide likes to pull you into the middle, which usually led me right into an opal. The trick was working out the safest side to lean to avoid each one. At first I tried a slow and steady approach, and that got me decently far. Okay, I don't think it's such a bad thing if I like get hit or something.
Yeah. You know, if you gotta choose between grabbing an opal and taking a hit, take a hit.
Ah!
gravity. It doesn't make sense.
Ah!
Oh my.
Die!
Slow down, slow down.
Ah! Ah!
Ah, ah.
Ah!
How long is this?
How long is
Freaking-
this going to take? No! Oh my god. After a while and many failed attempts, it became clear that taking my time on this slide wasn't going to cut it. Also, I have a life outside of this game and stuff. After many more attempts, I eventually remembered through a bit of frustrated button mashing that you can crouch while riding the water slide. This is used to move faster and avoid certain obstacles, but it also works surprisingly well for sticking to the sides of the water slide. Is there some kind of maneuver that I don't know about? Oh!
Ow.
I forgot you can duck.
You can duck?
Whoa! This is working. Holy crap. Oh my god!
Whoa. Oh, okay.
That was working! It is here where my slow and steady strategy turned into a frantic yet calculated one. Okay, now I'm just gonna mash the jump button. No! That was it!
Oh my god, I just heard you do a cut-off scream.
That was
You're
it!
so close though.
It was the last one! It was the last opal! I had a good amount of hope that this was possible now that I was beginning to plan a successful route. But this opal, this one little opal, was stubborn. I would do the same thing on every attempt, and sometimes the opal would gravitate towards me, and sometimes it just didn't. I feel like I collected it like 70% of the time, despite doing the exact same thing. After a couple of hours trying and failing to get through this water slide, working out the optimal pathway, I finally had a taste of victory.
It means that I don't get to do. I don't have a completed save, which means I can't do New Game Plus.
Oh.
And New Game Plus means that you keep all of the renown that you had. Oh my god. You did it. Well done.
Get freaking away from me, Leech. Don't you dare kill me. Oh yeah, did I mention that this was only the first of 2 water slides? That name is a lie! Before worrying about all that though, I feel the need to share the route I came up with in order to get through that first one. At the start of the slide, jump and glide over the first opal and immediately start hugging the left side to avoid the next 5 opals. After passing the 5th opal, move to the right and keep holding right on the analog stick to stay high up on the right wall. Stay on the right side for the next 4 opals and then move over to the left side again. Next you want to keep to the left to avoid the next opal, and then after passing it, move to the right to avoid the next one, and then move to the left again to avoid the opal after that, taking care to also avoid the debris. Once you have avoided that opal, move to the right side and hold down the crouch button while holding right, and this will make you latch onto the right wall to avoid the next 2 incoming opals. After passing them, let go of the crouch button and safely move to the left side, then immediately start crouching again while holding left to stay onto the left wall. You'll need to keep holding left and crouch for this whole curved section. Though once you pass over the next 3 opals, Ty will always dip down the slide close to this opal for some reason. Don't worry though, while on some of my attempts Ty collected this opal, oh, what?
No!
A vast majority of the time he just passed over it. Just keep crouching and holding left and Ty will go back up the left wall and pass over the following 2 opals. Now it's the final stretch. Just hold right on the analog stick and hold crouch again to hopefully pass through all of the next batch of opals. This isn't guaranteed to work every time though. Again, this one opal will sometimes get collected and sometimes it won't. But while holding right and crouching, I like to keep mashing the jump button just in case it made me stay higher up on the wall. Once you make it to the final 2 opals, stop holding right and let go of the crouch button. It's a bit tricky, but you need to avoid this opal by moving around it on the left side. I also like to jump around it just in case. Then just do the same thing for the last opal but to the right side and congratulations, you're at the end of the first water slide. piece of cake, really. We're not out of the woods yet.
Don't you mean rainforest? Shut up.
We still have that second water slide to worry about. Before doing that though, this midway section was a good spot to chill out for a bit and collect a thunder egg or two while I was at it. Because I collected all the thunder eggs I could get in the previous 2 levels, I only actually needed 3 in this level. I was hoping I could get the 3 I needed and leave without having to do the second water slide at all, because if I collected an opal now, I would need to reload my save, start back at the beginning of the level, and go through the whole water slide hell again. And obviously I'd rather avoid that. Unfortunately, this midway point only has 2 thunder eggs available to collect. The first being on this big log that you need to get on by jumping on this platform. I actually avoided this thunder egg at first because the platform has an opal on it. I was so unsure if this opal was even avoidable or not, and I wasn't willing to take the risk. But after psyching myself up a bit, I noticed that the opal wasn't dead in the center of the platform, and I just needed to carefully jump on the left side to get up to the thunder egg. The second thunder egg I could get here was for simply helping Ranger Ken get these bats out of this pudding cave. After that, I still needed one more thunder egg from this level, and unfortunately the only ones left are past the second water slide. Looking up ahead, I noticed that it split into 2 pathways. While both paths had opals on them, the left one was a shortcut. Even though it would be quicker, at a distance it kind of looked like the shortcut was more narrow and harder to avoid the opals on. So I opted to go through the longer path instead for a more calm experience. It gravitated me towards it. To be honest, this water slide wasn't nearly as difficult as the first. The problem is that it was still difficult enough to the point that it still required a good amount of trial and error. And every time I needed to retry the second water slide after collecting an opal, I needed to go through the whole level again, including the first water slide, just to have another attempt that will most likely fail. I had a strategy for the first water slide now, but it still didn't work 100% of the time. So even though the second water slide was easier on its own, it took me even longer to come up with a route for it. Anyway, as it turns out, taking the shortcut to the left is actually the way to go. There are only 3 opals here, and it's not nearly as narrow as I thought it was at a distance, so avoiding them was really easy. Even though I took the shortcut on the second water slide, it's still a bit longer than the first, and I went with a slow and steady approach for this one. I didn't need to crouch at all on this water slide either. It was really just about making sure I stuck to the safest sides to avoid each opal again. The issue here is that it was harder to judge the best way to go for each opal on this water slide. These opals were clever little sneaks because there were a few times where it looked like one side of an opal had way more space than the other, but it was actually better to pick the opposite side instead. Again, a lot of trial and error. I failed again and again and again, but I was convinced that getting through this water slide was possible. That and my small taste of victory kept me going through my seemingly endless attempts, until eventually...
Why is the camera doing that? Jump,
Yeah, I know.
Okay, no, it's fine. Sorry, I'm trying not to like backseat game.
It's okay. It just shows how engaged you are.
No, speed up. You might be going free. Oh my god.
Yes! Yes! Freaking...
Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god!
Oh my god, I was dying.
I feel lightheaded.
After a total of about 4.5 hours trying to get past both these water slides, I could finally continue with the level. I still couldn't relax though. All I needed was just one more thunder egg and I could leave this level for good, but if at any point I collected an opal before then, I would have to reload my save and go through the whole level from the beginning again, water slides and all. So needless to say, the stakes were still fairly high, but I made sure to progress very carefully from this point on. Once I was done with the water slide, I came across this thunder egg just lying on the ground before a turkey swooped in and ran off with it.
Oh no, the f***ing turkey!
Clearly, this is the thunder egg that you're expected to go for next, but catching this turkey can be a bit of a pain at the best of times, so I wasn't about to attempt it while also trying to avoid the opals dotted about the place. I just couldn't afford to take that risk, so the turkey can go ahead and keep it. My search for the last thunder egg I needed led me up to the side of this mountain with trails of opals leading to the top. The opals weren't too hard to move around, but I had to watch out for incoming boulders too. Oh, this looks more narrow. Oh, but the boulders jump. The boulders jump though. Oh!
Whoa!
That was so explosive. I was concerned that getting hit by a boulder might knock me into an opal, but all I had to do was pay attention to the boulder's path and take my time, and I was able to get to the top of the mountain opal free. Once reaching the top, I could go talk to Shazza, who wanted me to take out these lizards by using these rocks. This mission is pretty easy and doesn't involve opals at all. Once dealing the finishing blow, I was rewarded with the last thunder egg I needed to finally put this rainforest behind me. I accidentally collected an opal not 5 minutes later. But it's fine, I saved right after collecting the thunder egg, so it's all good. But god, imagine if I hadn't though. Now that I had all the thunder eggs I needed, I could take on the first boss. Not much to say here, since the boss levels don't really have any opals in them, but I simply cannot gloss over how great the music is here. It could be the nostalgia talking, but this entire game's soundtrack is great. Give it a listen. Anyway, all I had to do was lure it into these rock pillars to beat it, and then reach into its that to get a hold of the first of the freaky frisbees. After the boss was dealt with, I could head over to the next 3 levels for Act 2. Also, when defeating a boss, you get a new elemental boomerang that is required for progression. This first one is the flamerang, which I could use to get rid of the ice blocking the cave to the Act 2 levels. As I mentioned before, thunder eggs collected in the first Act levels aren't valid for the later acts, since they're like 2 separate flavors of thunder egg or something. Ooh, apple. So I'm technically collecting thunder eggs from scratch again. I think it's this game's way of ensuring that you visit every level. That aside, I made my way to Bridge on the River. I went to this level first because I knew it would probably be the easiest. It starts out quite linear but gradually opens up after a while. A little ways in, I ran into Dennis the Cheapskate,
Green Tree Frog,
who claims that he has an entire collection of thunder eggs that we can take off his hands. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. We gotta light some furnaces, beat up the locals, chase some turkeys, leap off a tower. You know, we could just rob this guy's house and then we wouldn't have to do any of this. But doing these tasks gave me the thunder eggs I needed, and the opals never really got in the way. Although opals change colour for each act, and I was a little concerned that the blue opals here would blend into the environment and make them harder to see, but this turned out to be not much of an issue at all. After getting every available thunder egg in this level, I was happy to leave, especially if it meant getting away from those giant roaches. Oh, that is horrific. Oh god, I hate the bugs in this game. Up next was No Worries, and this is another very open level. I wish I had more to say here though. Most of the opals were very spaced out. In some cases I would have had to really mess up in order to touch one. Not even the abundance of ice physics were enough to make me accidentally collect one. The only real problem I had here was when I was finding the koala children. There are 8 of them lost in a level, and they weren't a bother at all until I got to the last 2 in this area. Both of them were up on these tall rocks, and I needed to jump on these lower ones to get to the ones with the koalas. But the lower rocks had opals on them, and they were so thin that I would, without a doubt, collect an opal if I attempted to jump on any of them. I was about to think that I'd have to skip this thunder egg and let these koala children slowly perish in the snow. But this is where that little double jump technique that I mentioned earlier came in. All I needed to do was stand on a tiny slope and use a well-timed double jump, and I was able to, just barely, reach both of the tall rocks with the koalas and return them all for the thunder egg. Other than that, this level was just business as usual, and I could grab all the available thunder eggs again with minimal fuss. The next and final level of Act 2 was Outback Safari, and this is another level that I was worried about prior to starting this challenge. My concern came from the fact that this level has a major gameplay shakeup, where you ride on the bull boss from earlier. This guy is obviously quite a bit bigger than Ty, so in my mind navigating around opals would only get tougher. Although opals in this level are only ever in these crates, meaning that they don't have a pickup range when you get close like they usually would outside of crates, which admittedly was an upside. I was still worried though, just because of the sheer amount of opal crates scattered throughout the roads of this level, and simply sticking to the sides of the path like I usually do didn't seem as reliable of a strategy because some crates are sneakily hidden to the sides, concealed by rocks and grass and such. All these things made me fear that this level could be one of the hardest in this run, and yes, it could have been, but to my surprise it was not nearly as difficult as I made it out to be in my head. The main reason for this is because, once again, I'd collected all of the available thunder eggs in the last 2 levels, so I only needed 3 thunder eggs here. On top of that, navigating around these opal crates was way easier than I thought it would be. I definitely underestimated the movement controls of the ball, because I was able to run around the level with relative ease while dodging all the crates. And these whirlwinds that throw you around if you get caught by them were concerning for like a whole 2 seconds. Anyway, I got the first thunder egg I needed by catching some emus, which was surprisingly easy. Next I took out some hooligans on bikes before they got to Shazza in her truck. I was a bit thrown off by Shazza driving through some of the crates and releasing the opals inside, but they were spaced out enough that I was able to complete this mission without much issue. And then I got the last thunder egg I needed by simply toppling these water towers. Really gotta use your imagination on that one. After that, despite only seeing a fraction of this level, I could just leave and continue onwards. The level that I thought would be one of the hardest ended up being one of, if not the easiest of the bunch. And there was a good amount of it that I never even touched. There's like this big waterfall and caves and stuff, it's great. But we don't have time for overachieving, we get by on the bare minimum. This level could have been really tough had I engaged with the whole other half of it that I skipped out on, but I guess we won't know anytime soon. Wasn't worth the risk, you know? After leaving Outback Safari, I hopped straight into the next boss against Crikey. Again, bosses don't really factor into this challenge, so I just baited the shark with explosives, blew him up, and witnessed some movie reference before taking my leave. Defeating that boss gave me access to another elemental boomerang, this year's model being the Frosty Rang, allowing me to douse these flames to get to the Act 3 levels, the last levels of the game. Up first was Rex Marks the Spot. I figured that this level would be pretty easy, if not just time consuming because of how large it is. Just like with shipwrecks, finding all the opals here is a massive pain when playing normally, so avoiding them felt like it wouldn't be a problem at all. And once again, I was very right in thinking that. God, I wish I had more to say about this level. Not collecting opals became so secondary in my mind because all I had to do was make the minimal amount of effort to avoid them. After a while, I almost forgot I was even doing a challenge. Not even like useful. I'm actually just going to use the regular boomerang. Oh!
What was that? I didn't see that.
I just instinctively ran up to a bunch of opals, forgetting this is an opalist challenge.
Oh, right.
I didn't collect any.
Just destroy the entire playthrough.
Again, the level was time consuming, but really easy. I was able to collect all the available thunder eggs without much thought. I dare say this was the easiest level yet. Moving on, we have Beyond the Black Stump. On the spectrum of easy or difficult to avoid opals, I expected this level to land somewhere in the middle, though maybe leaning a tad more towards the easy side. I first had to find the koala children again. Thankfully, I didn't have any mild hiccups this time. There were some narrow paths with opals on them, but they only really posed a small inconvenience. This next bit with these log bridges was a bit daunting. Not impossible though. I mostly just had to jump around these trails of opals while crossing over the logs. This was especially tough when they're at an upwards angle, but taking my time was key, which did get annoying when I had to redo this section a few times because I fell or had to reload my save. But at this point, I've gone through worse. Up next, I was tasked with catching this little bugger who'd run off with a thunder egg. I thought this one would actually really annoy me with how much trouble I can sometimes have catching him in a normal playthrough, coupling that with avoiding opals. But I guess I must have gotten really lucky or something because I barely even felt like I had to try.
The least difficult thing about this whole thing would be like finding a Bilby.
Yeah.
Because that's what you're supposed to do in the game. Oh my god!
Hi, Bernie. I caught him without even trying, what the hell? Heading further up the mountain, I came across this large drop at the end. You're supposed to gently glide down the cliff using these opal trails as a guide, but in the interest of avoiding these opals, I decided to just go against the system and find a better way down. Once I got down, I did a shooting minigame for another thunder egg. Doubling back, I came across a thunder egg that I immediately thought would probably be impossible to get, seeing as it's in the middle of these thin platforms, each with an opal on top. Didn't stop me from giving it a try though, and my suspicions were proven correct, so I had to reload my save and completely skip this one, which is something I actually haven't had to do as often as I thought when starting this challenge. Other than that, the rest of the thunder eggs in this level were nothing to write home about, so I left content with only skipping that one, aside from the one for getting every opal of course. Once that was all done with, it finally came down to this, the last main level of the game, by which I mean the last level that is relevant to this challenge, since the levels after this are in endgame territory and don't have opals to collect. So this is truly the final hurdle. This is
Lyre, liar, plants for hire.
If there was another level that I thought would be a run killer, it was this one. Yep, it's another rainforest level, and the last one had a certain feature that made this challenge particularly difficult in the past, and unfortunately that is something that this level also has going for it, which frankly terrified me. Upon entering the level, we are quickly introduced to a walking gimmick. This is Lenny the lyrebird, and he acts as a guide through the rainforest. And being a lyrebird, he tries to tell you what to do, and since he's lying, you have to do the opposite of what he says. Pretty simple stuff. Before talking about anything else, I believe it's worth mentioning that the paths were so damn narrow that it caused an unacceptable amount of resets. Anyway, moving along the path, I eventually came up to this door. Lenny tells you have to press the big red button to open it, but this just opens the trapdoor below you. What you really have to do is push the blue button behind it to open the door. But that's not the issue here. The issue is that there just so happens to be an opal placed right in front of it. I couldn't walk around it since there wasn't enough space. So I tried to jump over it a few times, but the top of the door frame was way too low down, and it prevented me from easily clearing the opal. I tried getting over this opal a bunch of times, and after a while I was kind of at a loss. It really felt like this could be that impossible roadblock that I've been dreading. And of all the things it could have been, this door never came to mind. But after many tries, my twin Sleepy Grim was there to offer me support.
Right, so just straight shot, like as close to the pillars you can get, as far from the thing as possible, and then just jump and glide. I'm a fucking
You are the savior of this entire run. Holy
I
crap.
know. I am smart and I have good ideas.
Oh my god,
and
I
you should
was
always listen to
so
me.
scared that that would be it. You literally saved this entire run.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Well, you need to put that in the video now.
Absolutely, that's going in.
My amazing moment.
That moment where you literally saved the entire game. Where everything I'd done up to this point didn't burst into flames. After that, we were able to move on and engage with some more of the local wildlife.
Oh, that movie, man.
What the frickin' hell are you? Why don't I remember you?
Oh, I remember those things. You bite them.
Oh, I don't think I've ever seen them, like, up close.
They're ticks. Ew.
Here he comes.
Why are they looking at you like that? Bite them. Yeah.
Why did they turn into blackcurrant?
They turn into Rabina.
Okay. I haven't really needed to mention it up to now, but the game has these spy egg cameras that you come across occasionally. They are essentially a combination of Sonic's homing attack and lightspeed dash. Not the only thing inspired by Sonic, if you ask me. Anyway, I needed to bite these spy eggs to reach the other side of this cliff, but the game pulled a fast one on me, and after biting the last egg, I fell right onto an opal. Kind of annoying, since I had to reload the level and make my way there again, but it was a simple workaround. I just had to make sure I held forward on the analog stick as I fell down, and all would be good. As I pressed onwards, I eventually came to the part I was dreading the most. Water slide extreme. Yeah, my first attempt went bad pretty much immediately. However, on my next go, I found that you could glide from above to skip the first few opals, but it didn't get any easier from there. I could tell pretty quickly that this water slide was way more narrow than the last one, and the opals weren't exactly spaced out. Once again, it took a lot of trial and error to get anywhere, and when I touched an opal, I had to reload my save and try again from the start. Which wasn't too bad for the last water slide, but this level was significantly more long and painful to trek through for each attempt, and Lenny's whole shtick got old real fast.
This button opens the door. This button opens the door.
Shut
This
your
button
fucking
opens the
whore
door.
mouth. I'm
This
going to...
button opens the door.
I kinda love it.
This button opens
You know,
the door.
there are no more opals from this
This
level
button
onward.
opens the door.
Neat.
This button opens the door.
Shut your fucking mouth.
When I sleep, I snore. I can't take any more.
I'm gonna kill your mom.
It's like Ty's equivalent of it's no use. It's no use. Bring me
over.
juice. I'll kick you in the caboose. Leave the puce.
Leave the pews. Oh my god.
By the way, side note here, after redoing this bit with the door multiple times, I found out that you can just jump on this red button and that makes gliding over this opal with the door a lot easier. Anyway, getting back to the issue at hand. This water slide eventually splits into multiple paths, and I tried each of them, but it all felt pretty hopeless. Here's the thing, with the previous water slides, no matter how many times I failed, no matter how many times I had to retry, they still felt possible, and that's what kept me going. I never got that same impression from this water slide, on any of the multiple pathways. After a while, I felt pretty sure that it's just not possible to ride this water slide without collecting a single opal, and if it is, then it's simply beyond my capabilities. The best I could do was make my way to the end of the slide with about 10 opals. Needless to say, I felt pretty defeated at this moment, that everything I went through to get to this point ended up being for nothing in the end, that this entire run ended up dying right at the last level. I got so desperate that I attempted to maybe find a way to get past the water slide, or the invisible walls around it by gliding over them, or maybe I can clip through this wall, or use this tree as a platform. These desperate attempts didn't really yield any results. So that's it? I can't beat this game opal-less? The run is over? Maybe not. I still had one more trump card up my sleeve. I wanted to save this as a last resort, only if I had no other option, but I decided that I needed help from the Tasmanian Tiger speedrun community. I really wanted to get through this challenge without any major glitches or exploits, since that's not really my area, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I should mention that before this point, I didn't look into any speedruns or anything of the like for this game, since I wanted to go into this challenge as blind as possible. When I did eventually look into some speedruns, I was hoping to find some kind of exploit that allowed me to skip over the waterside section I was stuck on, and I found out about a way and then some. What I found out is that not only is there a trick to skipping the water slide, but the entirety of Act 3 as a whole. How is this done? Well, for that, we'll have to make our way back to Rainbow Cliffs. This gate here leads to the endgame, and you're supposed to open it by using the Zappy Rang that you get after defeating the Act 3 boss. But, using a glitch, we can actually go over the gate instead. This trick took me a while to actually get right, and again, glitches and speedrunning tricks like this are not in my area of expertise. If I even have an area of expertise. Yeah. I found out about this trick from a speedrunner called Kama Crimson, and I used a tutorial video from the channel Coral Killer to learn how to perform this trick myself. So big thanks to both of them. I'll link their channels down below if you're interested. But since this is my video, I'll give you the rundown on how it works. To start, head over to the small island where the gate is. Now go over to this wall and stand facing it, only being slightly in the water. What we want is to jump slightly forwards and then press the dive button to dive at the wall while being between the water and the land. This should hopefully trick the game into thinking that we are swimming underwater while still being on the land. You'll know you did it right if Ty is above the water in his underwater swimming animation. Now before you start trying to swim around wherever you want and ascend, you should know that you're still bound by the laws of gravity at least somewhat, and you still need to be touching the ground. Trying to swim upwards while in this state will cancel out the glitch, and Ty will just stand on the ground like normal again. Instead, swim over to this tree that's closest to the gate. And don't worry, you can take your time while the swimming glitch is active for the most part, but remember, the game thinks that Ty is underwater, and I'm pretty sure he isn't sporting a hidden pair of gills, so try not to take too long or you'll drown and, you know, die. Once you swam to the base of the tree, you can start swimming up the tree, effectively climbing it. Although you'll need to keep your balance as you go up it, or else you'll fall off the side and the glitch will be cancelled out. After managing to climb up, stop at these yellowish looking leaves. After that, rotate Ty to the right so that he's facing the gate. Next, lightly tap the swim button to inch Ty slightly towards the gate. Keep doing this until Ty enters his swimming above water animation. Now when you see this happen, you need to move quickly because you only have a brief moment to act. When Ty enters this animation, you need to quickly jump towards the gate, and if you did it right, you should be able to jump far enough to get to the top of it. A couple of tips I should mention. When jumping towards the gate, you should jump and start holding forward on the analog stick at the exact same time. If you move even slightly forward before jumping, you'll probably fall. I'd even recommend jumping first and then start holding forward immediately after. It's a bit safer of a strategy this way. Now I tried this jump many times, and I really struggled with jumping far enough to reach the gate. In the speedruns I watched, they were able to jump forwards and Ty would ledge grab the gate and pull himself up to clear it, but I was never able to do this. However, when you press the bite button in mid-air, Ty will be propelled forwards as he falls down. Coral Killer's video recommended this trick to clear the gate if you're having trouble, and once I found out about it, I was able to get to the top of the gate really easily. Biting in mid-air like this isn't recommended for the speedrun since it's slightly slower than jumping and grabbing the ledge, but for my purposes, this worked out just fine. Oh! Yes!
Yay!
Oh my god, I did it!
Congratulations.
Thank god, yeah, doing the bite thing, that worked. Holy crap. After clearing the gate, this is it, endgame territory. And this is effectively where the challenge stops, since none of the levels from here on have opals, or any collectibles for that matter. This is where the game stops being a collectathon and starts being more of a get from A to B kind of platformer. It was just a hop, skip and jump to get through Cass's Pass, and you have no idea how glad I was to see a water slide that didn't have opals on it. Once done there, it was onto Cass's Crest, where I had to fight Rouge the Bat's forgotten cousin, named Shadow. Huh. Where I got another one of the super special things. And speaking of Shadow, I had a quick run-in with Sly. Then it was time for the final battle against Boss Cass himself. First, I took out his cannons, busted inside the robot, and destroyed the power source from the inside. Sly gave me the Doomerang so I could do this really long tunnel section. Like really, why is this so long? And with that, we give Boss Cass the old heave-ho, the day is saved, your parents emerge from the void, cue super happy ending freeze frame pose. And there you have it. The game is over. So how about we return to the big question. Can you beat Ty the Tasmanian tiger without collecting a single opal? The answer is yes. Yes, you can. But not without a little speedrunning help at the end there. I wasn't too sure what I was getting myself into when starting this challenge, but it was a bit more of a mixed bag than I expected. In some ways, the challenge was easier than I thought it would be, and in other ways it was soul-crushingly harder. It's a shame that I couldn't get through the whole game without the use of speedrunning tricks, especially since if it weren't for that water slide at Lyre, I dare say it would have been very possible. By the way, I was quite sure that getting through that water slide opal list couldn't be done, but if there's anyone out there who can prove me wrong and let me know, show me some proof and perhaps I can make some kind of follow-up video. Even so, I won't consider using the gate skip to be an easy way out since it took quite a bit of effort to get the trick down, with the very limited speedrunning skill that I possess. Now, when I found out about the gate skip, I did wonder what's stopping you from just doing this trick right as the game starts. I mean, you have to beat 2 up to unlock Shipwreck so you can learn how to swim, but I wondered wondered why speedrunners don't do that trick as soon as they have that ability, and I realised that it's probably because you need both the Flamerang and the Frosty Rang in the final boss, and you can only get them by beating the first 2 bosses. So it seems you can't do the gate skip any sooner than the second boss, just in case anyone was wondering. Now some of you might also be wondering, what about Tie 2? Can you beat that game without collecting opals? And well, no. The answer is no. Hiya, thank you so much for watching to the end of the video, and if you just skipped all the way here to the end, then why? Anyway, this video is quite different from what I usually do, but I wanted to start making content like this since up to now I've only done stream highlight videos, which I still plan on making, but I wanted to try something new. If you're interested in those stream highlights, by the way, I left some links down below so you can check them out. I stream live on Twitch a lot, so if you're interested in hanging out over there, I have a link below for that too. Before I sign off, I wanted to give a brief thank you to my twin, Sleepy Grim, for keeping me company when doing the challenge. You definitely helped me retain at least some of my sanity, so it's very much appreciated. This is a friendly reminder that you can subscribe if you want to stay up to date with my uploads, including stream highlights and other edited content. With all that being said, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, stay safe, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care.